Can I get to the most important thing? Warrick Dunn is going to the College Football Hall of Fame. That's the first item on the agenda for Seminole Headlines, guys. And who doesn't? I mean, Warrick Dunn, along with Derek Brooks and a couple other guys, are just universally beloved.
Yeah. I know you haven't read the column. It just got put up there, but I posited in the column that I think if you asked 100 people that were Dynasty fans who their favorite Florida State football player was.
Dynasty, like the show, the Carringtons?
Yeah, like the Dynasty. Like, right. Some people like Falcon Crest.
Yeah.
Right.
Some people like Dynasty. No, the Dynasty.
Some people like Dallas. Some people like Dallas,
true.
Corey.
I think Warrick Dunn gets like 50% of the vote. Like, I think he's the runaway favorite for Dynasty era fans of their favorite football player. Obviously, a lot of it had to do with what he did on the field because he was unbelievable, starting his first game as a freshman. But then also the backstory, Charlie Ward, his mother being tragically shot and killed, him having to be a dad to his siblings, all of it. And then what he's done afterwards.
It's amazing.
I just think he's one of the most beloved Florida State, maybe the most beloved Florida State football player of all time.
Yeah, he's in the discussion. Charlie Ward, it's him,
yeah,
and Derek Brooks and guys like that. Yeah, who all were amazing players, amazing human beings. Warrick Dunn's story is documented across the country. It's remarkable. He's made every Florida State fan and graduate and supporter of any kind very proud. Very proud. I mean, you're right, Corey. I think it's interesting. I'm not besmirching any of the other guys, but I bet you if you talk to Noles fans and they're traveling and somebody's like, "Oh, who's your all-time favorite?" No, they bring up Warrick Dunn pretty quick because they're beaming with pride about who he is.
Yeah.
I also like that Corey mentioned in the column. This is something he and I have talked about through the years because it's something that's not really ever talked about when people talk about Warrick Dunn, because obviously overcame great family tragedy, great humanitarian, what he does for single mothers, all of those things are amazing. And he carries himself in a way that seems very classy and, he's got a calm demeanor. He's not a real fiery guy. But when you watch the way he plays, and Corey points this out in the column, people can read at warchant.com, there was a swagger to him. The way, high steps, drags his feet into the end zone, things like that, he didn't have to talk about it, but you could see he was about it.
He would do this occasionally when he scored a touchdown, just pat himself on the chest, which was awesome because he was so low key and mild mannered. But he shushed the crowd at Miami after his 80-yard touchdown run. He had that in him too, and that's how you're 175 pounds and you play for over a decade in the NFL. You got to have some swagger and some self-belief.
Ahead of his time, if we're going to project onto his NFL career. If you just look at total yards, like Marshall Faulk was doing those things, so that's fine. But Warrick Dunn is in the category. Corey, have you ever looked at his total yards? Look at the NFL's all-time total yards leader. Yeah. Because obviously that is the more effective stat because he caught so many passes out of the backfield. But if you look at those numbers, his place in the game, certainly it's debated about whether or not he should go to the Hall of Fame. But that's being ahead of your time. And at that size, it's crazy that he was able to do that.
And it's cool that he does get this rightly earned recognition to be a College Football Hall of Famer. So he's number 9 now for Florida State players. Bowden makes 10. They also claim Mudra. I don't like that they claim Mudra. It's ridiculous that they claim Mudra.
Hey, he coached at Florida State and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, then Bill Parcells is a Florida State Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? He coached at Florida State too, but Mudra almost got the program disbanded. He did great things before Florida State. But, so he's number 9. We'll see who number 10 is. I would assume it'll be Peter Warrick. Should be the next one on the list, but we'll see.
Has to be. Would seem likely. Yes, absolutely. Well, congratulations to Warrick Dunn.
And then Jordan Travis, because clearly he was one of the most important football players that's ever lived. So he should be in the College Football Hall of Fame soon enough.
By the way, circling back here real quick, guys, to Warrick Dunn. Of the all-time Noles, Corey, where do you place Warrick Dunn? I'm talking about ranking on performance while as a player.
At Florida State.
At Florida State only.
I mean, I think you could make a really good argument that he's the best offensive player they've ever had. He led them in touchdowns in 3 separate years, including his true freshman year on a national championship team. He was, he still holds some school records with 100-yard rushing games. Dalvin was really flipping good though, and so was Peter Warrick. It's tough, man. It's tough.
I think I know what you're going to say. Tell me if I'm wrong. So their numbers are numbers, right? And we look at those empirically. Dalvin Cook was a better running back than Warrick Dunn.
And that's the challenge because, you think about what I mean, it's hard to say who's better, but yeah, man.
Here we go. Who has the best resume?
Well, I
Who's
mean, here's the
most
thing.
deserving of the
Who's the
title?
most deserving of that title?
I mean, I wasn't watching Florida State as closely. I covered one game in '93 season. I didn't cover Warrick's whole career, and I wasn't around it like you guys were. But I'm imagining he had a little bit better offensive line than what Dalvin Cook was playing with. And so, I mean, you think about those years with Dalvin where he was the entire offense.
He almost won the game against Clemson by himself.
Yes.
That was not a good Florida State team.
So you look at the physical skills, and Dalvin's pretty special.
Freakish.
But then you look at what they did in the NFL, and I think Dalvin's been a better traditional running back, maybe. Right. But Warrick Dunn's career in the NFL
is better than Dalvin Cook's. Yes.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. So it's hard to say who actually was better. Like Warrick Dunn clearly was good even with the Bucs, and he was. Good
I just think if we look at physical tools, Dalvin had more to work with. Dalvin was a freak show in terms of strength and speed. And
but Warrick was a freak kind of in durability. Like the fact that he never got hurt is at that size. Yeah, it's a good conversation to have. It's first world problems, right? Like who's your better all-time running back, Warrick Dunn or Dalvin Cook? It's a good school you get to cheer for when that's the conversation.
Well, the thing, whenever this happens, whenever we've ever had these discussions, and if I have them with fellow Noles, I'm always like, I feel uncomfortable because if you get into a heated argument about it, you're going to end up having to disparage.
Yeah. And Warrick Dunn was a 5 foot nothing.
Do it.
Warrick Dunn was 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing. Couldn't even play for Jimbo. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
No.
I just think what makes him so unique is one of the things that makes him so unique is he was joining a loaded football team that was number 1 in the country preseason.
Yes,
they thought he would be redshirting or he would be a corner.
A corner.
He had never played running back, I guess, in his career because he'd been a quarterback, and they thought he was going to be a DB. And by the first week, the best football team in the nation was like, "Oh crap, who is this kid? This kid's going to be on the field." Marquette, you're going to have to. I know you're the USA Today Offensive Player of the Year. You better transfer, buddy, because this kid's better than all y'all. And then he ends up being on the field in the final drive of the national championship game. Like that's a crazy ascension.
I think it's fun to have the conversation. Okay, let's just say in the time that the three of us have covered together, and I don't mean just Warchant, but I mean we've all been on this beat for a long, long time. Like, how many times have we been at practice and thought, "Oh, look at that"? It's very rare that you see a true freshman, and within a week or two, go, "Well, they're gonna have to play him." Look at this dude. They're gonna have to play. Jalen Ramsey. I remember Jalen Ramsey. I think all of us inside the indoor practice facility were like, "Holy hell, look at this."
Well, Rashad Green too was a guy that I thought. And here's the difference: we only got to watch one practice a year back then.
Yeah.
But that one practice with Rashad, you're like, oh man, he moves different. Like that kid moves like an NFL wide receiver already.
There just haven't been too many moments. I mean, I'm thinking back on. I started covering the team in '98, and that team was loaded. They won it all in '99, obviously. And I remember looking at. I mean, I'm trying to think about true freshmen though, where I thought, "Oh, that dude's going to start."
Yeah. It doesn't happen much. And luckily it doesn't have to now.
Especially not on loaded teams.
It's, I felt this similar when I saw Keon Coleman. I'm like, hey, man, that guy's first time I saw him, I'm like, I think that guy's going to play.
It's going to work out okay for him.
I think they're onto something with this guy.
And apparently they right now, Ira, I think have 14 scholarship wide receivers. If you include the freshmen and the kids that have transferred in with Malik Benson and other kid's name, Jalen Brown.
Jalen Brown.
I think they're up to 14 scholarship wide receivers right now.
Yeah, we'll see how that all shakes out over the next 6 months.
We may not be here.
We'll see. But yeah, the other thing when I did the interview with James Colsey a couple weeks ago, he's now at FAMU. He's now the interim head coach at FAMU. But he just in just casual conversation because he had to play as a freshman in a corner when Corey Fuller and those guys got hurt. And he talked about being in when they first got to Florida State, that Warrick Dunn was in the cornerback room. And at least in some of the initial meetings, I know Coach Bowden promised him to play him at running back, and obviously never looked back. But it's just it's a crazy story. But also, you think about the talent at Florida State at that time that
unreal.
It's almost hard to comprehend.